it.
It's still doing it.
I
So
was hoping to catch you while you were singing.
that's annoying. That's annoying that it does that.
Will you start over? Will you sing real quick?
Sure. Sure. Ladies from the top. I will follow him. Follow him wherever he may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain so high it can keep me up.
Then it goes into the upbeat part.
Yeah.
What a good movie.
I was definitely
That was great. That was great.
definitely bringing on the Whoopi Goldberg vibes.
No, I like it. That actually sounded really good. That was great. Maybe we'll play that at the end. Maybe I'll
I wasn't even trying.
yeah, maybe I'll get a sound clip of that and play it at the end. That was really good. That was fantastic. It sounded great. It was really good. It's great for the morning just because I mean it's Saturday morning, not Sunday morning, as we're recording this, but I like the idea of having some sort of gospel rendition.
Yep.
Really kind of liven the mood. I like his Holy Spirit to penetrate my body at early morning on Saturday.
Alma,
Check your battery.
check your battery.
Look at these guys behind me. Keep it down back there. Fucking, can you guess our theme song?
Who let the dogs out?
Nailed it.
I would imagine where you're at, there's a lot of things covered in piss.
Yeah. Hey, you too. It just happens to be children.
That's true.
Oh, shots fired over the dead. My bad. That's just a joke. It's a joke. So everyone who's listening, settle down. Just a joke. Yeah, it was crazy because I had to kind of, if you look at it, the crowd that supports me behind me, those are my people. They have really intricate masks, really fucking sharp leathers, good colors, nice form-fitting pup play mask. I got this like cheap, supposed to look like a bulldog mask.
Yeah. Well, I like yours though.
Yeah.
I think really yours is more, they look like their masks look like they're attempting to be superheroes. Like if Batman decided to change his animal of choice and decided to be a dog, that's what his mask would look like.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and you can get those masks at a lot of different places, come to find out. So maybe I'll upgrade soon. I don't know. I'm new to the group. So
you're a pup. You're a pup.
I'm a pup. The Wiley group behind me, they're veterans. So they've been doing it for a while. And at some point I think I'll probably upgrade a little bit, upgrade my gear,
Yeah. I've definitely got some veterans too. A lot of them with AARP cards.
Yeah. A lot of them with life alert necklaces. For sure.
Yeah. Definitely got some veterans in my group.
That's a median age crowd of 77. What you got going on behind you? Yeah. No, I like it. I like the I really like the Holy Spirit penetrating this podcast early on a Saturday morning. I think it's great. So just so people know, Chris and I decided to, we're taking like virtual backgrounds to a new level because we both have these green screens that we were using, which are fun. And we just decided like very early on last week, if you watch the episode, and I'm going to do a thing every week where I'm going to let the audience decide who has, based on the criteria, like who's the best theme for the week. Right. And so I feel like this is going to get a bit out of control. which I think is going to be a lot of fun. But we're going to have audience members just vote on which ones they think are most appropriate given the themes that we put out there. So the theme for this week was, and Chris put it out, is it just had to involve crowds. Crowds meaning obviously numerous amounts of people and or could be animals, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. It could have been animals.
Chris has a nice church crowd behind him. I have a nice pup play crowd behind me. And so
we're basically opposing forces.
We very much are. I highly doubt any of the folks behind me stroll into church very often.
Do you think God envisioned the human race as a bunch of goddamn dogs?
Yeah, it is kind of it is kind of ironic given yours, because I don't know if dogs are religious. Like people are, and Indians are technically people, but they identify as, in this other world, they sniff each other's asses and shit. So they do dog stuff. And I don't know that dogs subscribe to any sort of religion. So I don't know. I don't know how that works. Does like the owner or the master dictate the religious factors in a dog's life? Dogs can't choose, right? Like if I'm a dog, I can't go, I'm Catholic, like who am I? Am I Catholic? Am I Buddhist? Like, what is it? I don't know.
I feel like most dogs by default would be Buddhist monks.
Yeah, Quincy would be because he's a pug.
Super laid back, almost always happy.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe it matches their personality. Chill. That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah. Well, that'd make Carlisle, it would make him satanic. So that's interesting. Anyway, I got to take this mask off. Hold on.
I love the ears, by the way. It's very cute. Oh, yeah, you got sunburn.
Yeah, I got a nice little tan line. We're going to go ahead and cover that up. You'll see exactly how I got it. You ready?
Yep, is that hat right there. Yep, perfectly right there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I got, which is weird because it looks bad, but it's not really that bad. It's not really that bright. It's really not burn at all. And I was out for a while, and my face gets red, but I don't burn very easily. I usually just tan very quickly, which is exactly what happened. Anyway, so speaking of, I just got back from fishing trip. Not good.
At all.
Hardest fishing I've ever had. Yeah, it was tough. It's really tough. We missed it by like a week, which is very frustrating.
Oh no, like a week late?
Yeah, we were a week late, which is weird. So, so pre-spawn was really good a couple weeks back. Then we went into spawn. They were still sitting on their beds while we were there. So we saw, we went to a new place that I made Dave take me, which was like across the lake, which is like a really popular spot during like pre-spawn, and people were killing it there a couple weeks ago. So we decided to go over there, and beautiful part of the lake, really cool, super unique, but all the fish were just like hunkered down on their beds. Like Dave caught some really nice fish over there. And we saw like literally the most ginormous smallmouth I've ever seen in that lake, but you just could not catch them. They were not active at all, like not doing shit. I caught some good fish, just not the numbers that I was hoping for.
Yeah.
So that explains the burn on my head as I was out on the lake, literally 12 hours a day. It was fun, but it was tough. So next year I've just got to time it better, because it should have been this week, should have been right before they started spawning and laying on their beds, because historically that's what it is. Like if you time it certain weeks throughout the year, the problem is the weather got so nice so quickly this year up in Michigan that it just accelerated everything. So where I thought I had it timed right, we were just late. So they're probably about to get off their beds and run a little deep, because it's really hot there right now. Like yesterday it was 85 when we left. Today it's 90. Tomorrow's 90. The next day is like 90, which is unseasonably hot.
Yeah.
In that part of Michigan this time of year. So I think they're going to start running this weekend and get out into those deep waters again, which they'll start feeding again, which is good. But yeah, we just missed that fucking window, which sucks. It was really, really tough. And then it rained on us pretty much the whole first day, and that was miserable, but But anyway, so I got to tell you a funny story.
Yeah.
Well, one, I think Dad's going crazy, so we need to talk about that. Not on this podcast, but probably, like with assisted living facility.
Yeah, I believe it.
Going crazy. No, so I don't know why this bothers me so much, and I've repeated this like multiple times, but I just want to get your take on it because the psychology of it to me is very disturbing, and like very disturbing. So, we're fishing this week and we're on our way to St. Clair. We left right at about 5 a.m. on Wednesday. And we're driving up there and we're about an hour into the drive. I think we're maybe close to Lima at this point. So about an hour in. And Dad goes, hey, he looks at Dave and he says, hey, can I plug in my phone to phone charger? And Dave goes, well, what kind of phone do you have? And Dad goes, I got the Samsung. Dave's like, I got an iPhone. I don't have a Samsung charger. And Dad's like, you don't have a charger that fits my phone? And he kind of was like, got a little razzed about it. Like, oh, this is like a critical thing that I charge my phone. Again, we're only an hour into the ride. I'm going, what the fuck? This makes no sense. So I go, Dad, what do you need a phone charger for? And he was just like, my battery's dying. And I was like, already? We've been in the car for an hour. What do you mean it's dying? He goes, the battery on my phone's dying. And I was like, well, what's it at? And he's just like, here. And he's like, it's at 98%. And I was like, we've been driving for an hour and only dropped 2%. He goes, son, you don't understand. It dies quick. I got to keep it on the charger all day. He's like,
that's how you ruin a battery though.
Like, my phone will just die. And so in my head, I'm going, okay, it's one of those phones where it's like, because my work phone kind of does that. It'll be like 75%. And then all of a sudden it's like 3%. Critical. Like it gets squirrely. And so that's what I was thinking. And so the remedy for the whole thing was quite simple. The remedy to just get Dad's phone back on track was Dave has one of those center console wireless chargers. We just drop Dad's phone on it and good to go. Right. And then we just keep driving. And I didn't think anything of it after that until the next day. And the next day it's about, I want to say about 10 o'clock that next night. Get off the water around 9. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to eat. And Dad's like, I need to go upstairs for a few. He's saying, I need to charge my phone. And I was like, God, your phone's already dead. Like it's dead. Like it's already dead. And he goes, yeah. So he's like, son, I got to get on the charger right now. And I was like, okay. So like, well, and it's just like my curiosity in my head because of the whole 98% thing after an hour. I go, well, what's it at? Bear in mind, the phone has been with him all day. He's been on it. He's used it. We've been on the water since the morning. This is 10 o'clock that night. Chris, it was at 73%. And Dad is freaking out. And I don't mean like, I just get it on the charger for a bit. Like he was free. Like it was like, I have to go upstairs and charge this because it's going to die on me. And so I had a conversation, extended conversation with Dad in the hotel lobby. And I just made him stand there so he could listen to me. I said, I don't think you understand how this works, but let me explain it to you. Now I'm going to use some basic math. We've been out on the water. We've gone 15 hours of a 24-hour day, and your battery has only dropped 30%. That math tells me that really we could probably get you through the whole next day without charging your phone at this rate. And he goes, son, you don't understand. It's going to die on me. He's like, this phone's going to die. I got to keep it on the charger all day. He's like, if I don't, he's like, I'm out in the shop and I got to keep it on the charger. And if I don't keep it on the charger, it's going to die on me. And I was like, I'm trying to understand why you are freaking out about your phone being at 70% or 80% or even 98%. I don't think Dad understands that phone batteries continue degrading. Like they don't stay like it, for me, it's a psychological thing. If it's not at 100, it's dying. Like he sees it as like the phone's inability to do its job or it was the weirdest conversation I ever had. And I don't know how to like
process it.
I don't like, I've been struggling with it because what it's shown me, and it's tough, but what it's shown me is like, he's losing his goddamn mind. Like, dude, it was tough having this conversation with him. It was tough because he didn't understand that, one, that's what phones do. And two, he just kept saying, he's like, this thing's a piece of shit. And it dies on me all the time. And I need to upgrade it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going, Dad, if my phone was at 73% after fucking 13 hours of the day, I'd be the happiest person on earth. I was like, currently my phone is at 13%. Yeah. I'm not freaking out. It's all good. But dude, it really showed me that. I was like, man, I think Dad's going crazy. Like, I think he's fucking going crazy. Cause I'm telling you right now, dude, you know, as well as I do, I can see Dad at home right now.
He's on that phone.
I can see it at home. Like, it's plugged into the fuck. And I told him too, same thing.
It's plugged in and he's on it.
Yeah. I was like, Dad, if you keep it plugged in like that and it's not powered off and you keep the charger plugged in, it's going to drain the battery more. Like, you are supposed to fully charge a phone with the phone off, use the phone until the battery's depleted, and then recharge it. That's the best way to get longevity out of the battery in your phone. If you continually keep it plugged in, it's going to degrade the battery significantly. Like, everybody knows that. But the psychology of it, Chris, I think it was fucking with him really bad. Like, it was really, really, really fucking with him. And it, for me, was really tough to like listen to, because I'm like, the fact that he doesn't understand how this works, and then I know he's going to go home and he's going to freak out, and the first thing he's going to do is plug his phone on the charger, even though it's probably at like 99%.
Yeah.
It was rough. Like, you should have seen him freak out when it was at 98%. He's like, I got to find a charger. The son, he's like, you guys don't have a charging cord? And I was like, not for your Samsung. I have an iPhone. And he's like, oh. And I think it was like a USB-C or whatever, which I actually think I had one in my bag, but I wasn't going to go fish it out when his battery's at 98%. It was like he didn't feel comfortable, and he couldn't exhaust that anxiety until that phone was on a charger. It was really strange, man. It was really strange. There's a weird psychology to it. It's like freaking me out. And I know I'm getting a little deep in this subject right now, but it's like, I'm going to put you in a home. Yeah. You're on your fucking way.
For someone who's got a chance to talk to Mary Lou, Berthy, and some of these other fine ladies behind me, I think this is an issue of mortality. Dad's been saying he's been dying for a long time.
So now, do you think, I see what you think
I think the act of dying for him is the feeling of already being dead. So it's like this constant need of revitalization is the only way to prevent from dying or being dead, when in reality, we're all dying every second of every day.
Right. Like that battery.
So he's like, he acts like the battery that is at 2% that needs to be constantly plugged in. If not, whoa, Kale, Roomba. My Roomba, hold on. My Roomba's going ape shit.
I can hear it. Mine's downstairs going nuts. Got it fixed? There you go. Roomba done.
But I think Dad's mortality is fucking with him in every facet of his life.
Yeah.
To the point where he's dying. He's ostensibly at 5% remaining battery. And he's got this phone around him, which I would say is probably his girlfriend. So his girlfriend, trying to keep him alive and energized, she's dying every second. And he's seeing it rapidly happen. And it bothers him to the point where he's now got to keep her totally plugged in to make sure that she doesn't die. Because if she dies, he dies. And he's already at 5%.
That's an interesting take. And I had not thought about that. But the correlation between the phone dying and Dad, aging and entering in what I would say are what do you call those years? Oh, Jesus. Dad very much on the back nine,
Yeah.
You could argue that he's probably putting on the 16th hole right now.
He's in battery saving mode.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. He's in
with no charger around.
So that's an interesting take because, that very well could be it. That could be it for dad. I mean, honestly, what you're saying makes total sense as you said it, I'm like, oh, it's the correlation for dad. It's this thing that he can revitalize and recharge because he can't do that with himself. He's got control over bringing life back into this device that he has with him all day, every day.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. That's an interesting take. I think there's something there. I really do. So. I think there's something there. And I think, I don't know. I don't know what to do with the information or how I necessarily want to process it yet. But I am, when dad does stuff like that, I go, oh no, like this is not. Now he said some other really fucking stupid shit while we were out there.
I believe it.
Did you know dad was part of a bird club?
I heard about it from Dave.
Yeah. So he said, but I don't think it's. Well, here's the thing. I called him out on it because he goes, he was like, he's like, oh, I haven't seen these Baltimore Orioles in a while, which I don't think that's what they're called.
No.
Those black birds with the orange wings. He's like, oh, I haven't seen these in forever. And like acted like they were like this rare bird. And I was like, oh, I see these every day, every time. And I told him, I was like, when I go to the VOA park, there's actually at the park, there's legitimately a sign that says during their mating season, they can become aggressive and territorial. So it like warns you. And it's like a picture of the bird. It's like when they're nesting, like they'll attack you if you're not careful, just stay away from them. And yeah, dad thought that was crazy. And so I took a picture of the sign yesterday because I was at the park last night and I sent it to him. But anyway, you're going to love this. He said, we were talking about it, and I said, well, I was like, well, those birds aren't rare. They're fucking everywhere. I see them all the time. And he goes, hey, you boys may not believe me. I'm telling you the truth. I was like, first of all, when someone always says you may not believe me, I'm telling the truth, I immediately think you're lying. So that's number one. And he goes, you may not believe me, but I'm telling you the truth. He goes, I was the president of the Autobahn Club in high school 4 years running. And I go, one, I don't know what that means. Auto, because because it was in relation to birds, but he never said birds. He just said Autobahn. And I was like, I go like the
German?
Yeah, I go like the highway in Germany. He goes, no. He was like, it was a bird club. And I was like, oh, so you did bird watching in like high school? And he goes, no, it wasn't bird watching. I said, then what the fuck was it? He goes, it was a book club. And I was like, here's how I know you're lying. You don't read. So that you're lying to me. That is false. You're not a part of this book club. And he kept calling it like the Autobahn Society of whatever.
That's no way that's what it is. That name doesn't sound right.
Dave and I kept calling it the Bon Club. Dad was getting so pissed. Like you could tell he was just like very angry. And the fact that we just kept razzing him about this thing that we know never really truly existed, that he was never a part of in high school. I was like, you are lying to me right now. So then we just kept calling this bird Bon Bird. And Dad he goes, Bon's a candy. And I was like, no, Bon's a bird. It's a bird now.
Do you want to hear something profound?
Of course.
And this is very applicable to Dad because I've heard him tell some stories that do not line up with how I perceive
all truth. The time, right? Like this is a normal thing.
We should look at our memories like they are Word doc files. We have the ability to open them whenever we want to and edit them and change them over time. And when they're saved back out, they're different.
It's like a new document.
Yeah.
Right.
So the reality is people are totally capable over time to alter memories by rewriting them when they recall them.
So what's the difference?
And it's like a new version of the fucking memory.
So what's the difference between lying
and just
like straight lying and then
just altering?
And just altering.
It's hard to tell.
Like I'm trying to figure out, and this process, was dad lying to me,
I think
or
technically,
was he altering or manipulating a version that is the truth that I don't know?
yeah, technically, from a baseline level, common denominator, it's a lie because if it doesn't reflect reality, it's being recalled as reality, then it's a lie, right? It's not
Right.
factual. Um, does he do it out of malice? Is he lying out of malice? Probably not. But his recalling of a certain memory could be completely off of what actually happened. He thinks it's the truth because
Yeah.
he's altered that memory. If you grabbed 100 of his classmates, which unfortunately there's maybe a handful left, and that's the truth because he's told me about every single goddamn one of them that's
Yeah.
died.
I actually suggested that maybe dad get me in touch with someone who could reflect back onto this time period.
Yeah. Um, that those people would be like, no, you weren't. I don't remember you ever being in some bird club. Plus, let's keep in mind, he went to a small high school. Who's fucking running a bird club? Who's going to join you? Yourself?
Yeah. So what was
You were a class of 40 some people. You telling me that there was a good enough people out of that 40 that wanted to learn about birds?
Yeah. Like life was so boring. Everyone's just like, let's get into the birds.
I need more coffee.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and here's the interesting thing about this, by the way, is so it's not the way he spelled it and the way that he was saying that, like the pronunciation of Autobahn was that of the German highway as we know it, right? The Autobahn.
Yeah.
But what it really is, after I did my research, is Audubon, which is a book of birds.
Okay.
So at some point, and I'm still not suggesting that dad ran some sort of crazy bird book club when he was in high school.
Yeah.
But he knew the association of this Audubon, which is not Autobahn, spelled differently, pronounced differently.
Yeah.
Because my thought is like, you're the president of this thing for 4 years. One, you know how to spell it. Two, you know how to pronounce it. So you knew neither.
Yeah, for sure.
That's concerning. But there is a book of birds, and that's what it's called. So where did dad get this from? That's what I want to know. Because you suggesting that there may be this altered version of this reality that dad had when he was younger, I think may have existed, but I also think that it was probably quite a far departure from him being a part of it.
Imagine
maybe more him just being like, this thing existed in high school and I remember someone talking about it versus I ran the thing for 4 years.
Yeah. Imagine a moment where in the first instance of this memory, he sees this Audubon book about birds and goes, you know what? I like birds. I would love to run a club someday, or run a club that like studies birds. End of thought, right?
Right.
He doesn't follow up. He doesn't create a club or whatever. 10 years goes by. He recalls that memory. Oh, I remember in high school when I was starting up that bird club in high school. Another 10 years goes by. Oh, I just remember that time that I ran that book club for birds.
Yeah.
In high school for 4 years. Do you see how you can slowly change?
Yeah. Yeah.
That memory?
Yeah, I get it. But then also too, I think about like, if you change the memory to that degree, you have to be able to be equipped with the information and knowledge of that time period. Because here's the thing, like if you've done this thing for 4 years,
you would have a lot of strong memories of it.
Not only a lot of memories, but a lot of knowledge about birds in general. Dad didn't even know that that Baltimore Oriole is not called Baltimore. And also, like, if I were to look at dad and I go, what bird is that? You think someone who's been studying birds for 4 years would be able to tell me? Dad would be able to tell me what that was. And so we were actually making fun of him because he kept saying Baltimore Oriole. And I was like, I don't know. That looks like a Toronto Blue Jay to me. And I'm like, really looks like a St. Louis Cardinal.
Berthy. Baltimore Orioles, are they actually from Baltimore? No.
Hold on. Actually, let me check that. Let me fact check myself just so I don't want to feel bad.
If you're wrong, hey, it's okay. We get a lot of shit wrong.
Let's see. Baltimore Orioles bird. First of all, the bird he identified is not an Oriole at all. It doesn't even look the same.
It's a blackbird, by the way.
What, the one that he was talking about?
With the orange, it's a form of, I believe it's a form of blackbird.
Yeah, but I forget what they're called. Like they have a name. It's the ones I always see at the park, but it's not a blackbird. Yeah, so here we go. Baltimore Oriole Wikipedia. Baltimore Oriole is more orange than it is black. And don't know that this actually may be from Baltimore, but it is not the same bird that we saw. It's not even close. So my point is someone who suggested that they were the president of a bird book club for 4 years, I feel like would know a lot about birds, didn't realize that the bird that was at the lake was not only not in Baltimore, but in fact was not an Oriole at all.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have a stern talking with Dad when I see him tonight. And I'm going to have to call him out on his bullshit. I think I'm finally going to have to just say, listen, Dad, I did some research and, you're lying to me.
Now, granted, I'm 15 years out from high school now, right? Almost 15 years out. I can still recall a lot of things, maybe not intimate micro level details of things like education, academia stuff,
Yeah, of course. But an overall experience.
But from an overall experience, I have a pretty good grasp of everything that I did in high school.
Like I could tell you that, Jesus Christ, Carlisle's trying to knock this thing out. I could tell you that I didn't play football 4 years in high school.
Yeah.
I could tell you I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I could tell you that I was 2 years in band.
Yeah.
Like, so the things that I did, I could tell you, and I could tell you what I played. I could tell you what I know. Like, I could tell you all those things. I can reflect back on those. Now I don't have a 73-year-old memory. So maybe at some point I won't. And who knows, concussion, CTE. By that time, I just may be mushy. But it just, there's something here, Chris. And I think I need you to break down the psychology of it. I want to sit down with Dad and have a conversation. Would love to do it on the podcast, by the way. I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Just to say, hey, listen, this whole phone thing, explain to me. Honestly, that's the kind of shit you put people in therapy for.
Yeah.
Because his anxiety about the situation, Chris, it was like elevated to another level. It was really weird.
He has anxiety about so many things too.
God, it was crazy. I'm like, man, he has
anxiety about me, his granddaughter, Kale.
Those are things to have anxiety about. Oh my God, my dog. Oh God. Carlisle, off. God damn. Here's the neighbor's mowing. He's like freaking out right now. Carlisle, off. God damn. He almost knocked the whole thing down. It's just, I don't know. It's an interesting thing just to hear him talk about, like, the phone charger thing was a very almost like childish thing. You know what I mean? Like, it was just because it was so not understanding, this is how batteries work. You know what I mean? Like, even after it's at 50%, you can still take a deep breath and go, I got plenty of battery left. At 30%, you could take a deep breath and go, I got battery left. It's like when it gets to 10%, you'd be like, I probably should find a charger soon. Otherwise I can't use my phone. So it was this the correlation and the psychology around just his attitude and anxiety about his phone dropping 2%. I mean, literally from 100 to 98, dude, he was freaking out. It was really weird. It was really weird. I feel like in a year, we're going to go to Dad's house and he's just going to have chargers all over his house. He's going to have portable chargers everywhere. They're going to be stapled to the wall and shit. He's just going to have battery packs all over the place.
Oh, total side subject, but I feel like it's important since we're calling out Dad. This will be the last story and then we'll get into the review.
Yeah.
I went to the wedding. I went to Chase's wedding.
Oh.
I drove a total of 3 hours for about 30 minutes worth of wedding.
Yeah, Dad told me that.
I was under the impression that I was the only cousin that was showing up to this wedding. In fact, almost all of them showed up minus 2.
Really? Well, I would have been one of them. I was not there.
You were one of them, and our cousin Michael Jr.
That was it? Everyone else was there?
Everyone else was there.
Dad told me no one was going.
Everyone else was there. And Dad seemed as baffled as I was like,
there was less of the cousins at my wedding.
Yeah, when I started seeing them all show up, I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I was so baffled myself. And Dad's like, oh, this is weird. I thought Rhonda said none of them were coming. I was like, I'm thinking you were thinking none of them was coming.
Oh, he pulled the old, I see what he did.
Now, I think this is what actually happened. This is Dad's short attention span and memory recollection. I think at the very beginning, when Rhonda was sending out RSVPs, that none of the cousins had responded yet. I think that's factual. Because no one responds to fucking wedding invitations on time.
Well, they don't, but also they only sent out an invitation and they did so 2 weeks before the wedding.
Correct.
They sent out to save the date. So that makes it
correct.
Like, that's why I couldn't go. So I already had plans. I was already
so consider the timeliness of when you receive an invitation to a wedding,
right?
Knowing that most people are not quick to RSVP to weddings to begin with, regardless of who they are.
Right.
In the first moments of sending out those invitations, I 100% would think that Aunt Rhonda was anxious and upset that none of us had responded yet. That I think is factual.
And then that she explained that to Dad, and Dad interpreted that to Dad as nobody's coming.
Right.
Right.
And then as RSVP started trickling in,
right.
You know, Rhonda probably was in a better place. They might have came in at the last minute, you know.
Right.
So she might have been feeling that sting or that anxiousness all the way up to wedding time.
Of course, everyone does.
But Dad in his head's going like, no one's fucking showing up.
Yeah. And misinterpretation of the situation.
Which is odd to me because I know how frequently he talks to his sisters. So I feel like he would have gotten an update.
Or maybe, and so hear me out here. Dad knew they were coming.
Probably.
But Daddy also wanted a boy with him.
Oh, I didn't expect any of these people to come. And then a bunch of people asked me if I was going to sing tonight. I'm like, no. And then I was out of there.
Yeah, Dad said he left quick. He was like, I just don't know why your brother didn't stay with me. Why would y'all drive back to Kentucky? Just let him do what he fucking wants to do. I was like, just leave.
I didn't want to be at a wedding.
Yeah, well, no. I mean, weddings are fun. When they're fun, they're fun. I would have not. We didn't even know if we were going to Tennessee because of Carlisle, because apparently people don't want to board him. So we struggled with that for fucking weeks. But we had Lauren's mom came over and stayed and took care of him, and he did great. He was awesome. Yeah. So yeah, that all worked out. But yeah, you know, it's like, yeah, you know, I like going to weddings, but weddings take, you know, they take up time, and you know, it's weird. It's like, you want to see people get married, and obviously cousins and the whole thing, and you know, and that part of me says, yeah, I wish it would be, but like weddings they're time consuming, they're somewhat exhausting, and it really is about 2 people. So it's like, who gives a shit who's in the crowd, really? Ultimately, like, you want your friends and family there. But yeah, there's this thing about weddings where it's like, I think people always feel some sort of necessity around, like, how long am I going to stay there? You know, at what point is it okay to leave? And I think it should be, there should be a higher level of tolerance for, like, all right, I saw him get married, now I'm going to leave. You know what I mean? Like, there shouldn't be the pressure of like staying at the reception. And
and like I was, you know, I didn't RSVP to the reception. Right. I made it very clearly on the RSVP. I was going to be the only one there. Right. And I was going to be there for the wedding, and that's it. Right. And Dad the whole time was like, son, they're going to have plenty of food. I was like, Dad, that doesn't mean they have a spot for my seat, though.
Right.
Because if it's organized seating,
right,
where am I supposed to stand? Or where am I supposed to sit?
Pull up a chair, Chris.
Right. And he's like, there'll be plenty of food. I was like, Do you understand that even if you're catering, if you're trying to be budget conscious, you're only going to make food for the people that
Yeah.
RSVP?
So as somebody who recently went through a wedding, well, I guess it wasn't recently, still feels like it was yesterday. But as someone who went through a wedding not long ago, those things are done in a very detailed fashion. And there really isn't, the only thing that you really have tolerances for, like alcohol, but like plated food and for like the number of people, you have a little bit, but that little bit costs the wedding party a lot of money.
Yeah.
So does seating. So, I mean, number of guests versus the amount of food, it all has a price to it because it's price per plate. So you're going to get as close to an accurate number as possible. So if someone does in fact show up and only RSVP to the wedding and not the reception, they're not creating a tolerance to that person. They're not going, well, Chris, maybe stay. So maybe we should have a little extra food. They don't do that. I promise you. Like I've went through this process. It does not work that way.
Yeah, I figured. Yeah.
So
I was like, no, I'm not staying. Like, they're like, well,
yeah,
you're not going to hang around for a little bit. No, what am I going to do? Stand around?
Yeah. Stand around and do nothing. Yeah. No, dude, you went to the wedding. Your obligation's done. You saw her cousin get married. This is great. It was just more than me. I was sitting in the middle of a lake drunk. So you were there for the part that you said and intended to be there for. Yep. Your obligation's over at that point. Yeah, there's no reason to go beyond that. Anyway, God, I don't know. I feel a little relieved in having that conversation, but I also feel like there's so many unanswered questions that I need to get to the bottom of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And his mental stability. By the way, Baltimore Oriole is not the bird we saw. I want to repeat that. And I need to make that known to Dad. This is not, I believe, for someone who's a part of the Bon Bon Book Club.
I think the bird is called a red-winged blackbird heron.
I think that's right. That's right. Those are the ones I see in the park. I'm almost positive that's it because I think that's what is on the sign because they call out the bird on the sign. Yeah, definitely not a Baltimore. Dad's like, oh, look at them beautiful Baltimore Orioles. I haven't seen those in forever. And then I'm looking at a Baltimore Oriole and go, that is not the same fucking bird. This bird has a ton of yellow and orange on it. The birds that we saw only had the one stripe on the wing. So false. All right. Let's shift gears here. We do have a review today. Hopefully that wasn't boring for people. Us talking about the psychological breakdowns of our man as he continues to age.
To preface, we are not psychiatrists, nor do we have a doctorate in any form of psychology or medical practice.
Also, want to preface, I love our dad to death. I would not. So here's the thing. I spent 3 days with him and then invited him over tonight, which is a bit much. It is a lot. It is a lot. But it's like, you know, it's more out of concern. And then I go, God, what is like, we need to like, maybe it's boredom too. I don't know, but I feel like we got to get to the bottom of it.
We'll scope them out tonight anyway. We'll poke and prod them.
Yeah, we're going to have to. And since there's going to be other people present, maybe I'll have them join.
Oh, dude, like a support group. That'd be perfect.
Yeah, it's just it ends up just being an intervention for Dad. Everyone's sitting in a circle and he's like, what's going on here? Also, the funniest thing ever, Lauren lied to him about the time to come over because she texted him. So she told everybody 6:30. By the way, it's 6:30. Or is it 6? 6:30. And we told Dad 7, knowing he was going to show up.
Because he's going to show up early. He always shows up super early. Yep.
So, yeah. You got to do that to him, too. You got to lie to him. Oh, he told me the other day. I don't know why we're still on this subject. I got to get off. He texted me the day before I was supposed to pick him up to go to the lake. And he's like, hey, because he's like, Dave asked me, he goes, what time do you guys want to leave? I was like, if we head out around 5, we'll be fine. Like, you don't need to get on the water there too early. They don't really liven up until like 9 o'clock. So I'm like, I'm not in a rush to get on the lake, especially on a day we knew it was going to be cloudy and rainy. It's like, I was not in a rush. I'd rather get like a good night's sleep and we just get there when we get there type thing. And Dad goes, son, how about you pick me up at 4:30 in the morning? And I just texted back. I just went, no. And that was it. And I didn't say anything else. I just said no. And then like probably 30 minutes later, he goes, so when are you going to get here? And I was like, when I get there. I was like, just be ready. Like, I'll text you and let you know when I'm on my way.
It's like, if you want to be up at 4:30, fine.
Dude, he was up at like 3. He was like, you know how dad is, like packed, ready to go. And I also think he thinks that the drive from his house to Dave's house at 4 a.m. is going to take me a half an hour, and it only takes 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm not picking you up at 4:30. Like, I'll get there when I fucking get there. And the funny thing is I got there at like 4:50 and we still got to Dave's at 5 o'clock. I'm like, his concept of time is just baffling to me. It's very challenging. I'm having a hard time with it. Anyway, all right, we're shifting gears. Let's power through this fucking review. As we're already way deep into this episode. Today, our review, Old School Cigar, probably, I would say in its existence, one of the most highly rated cigars across the board for many years running. And that is the Oliva V Melanio, not to be confused with Melania, that silly whore of a wife for Donald Trump. Sorry, kidding. I don't know that she's actually a whore. She actually seems like a nice person.
Oliva V.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
So before we get into the breakdown of the components of the cigar, Chris, how do we review these things?
Oh my God, this has been such a long time. I don't even recall if I remember how to do this anymore. I think I ran a bird club back in the day, but there's so many things I begin to forget, but I feel like I should know this. Now I remember. Each cigar review is broken down into 3 main categories: construction, burn, and flavor. We then see if the cigar is worth the price for a possible bonus or deduction. And then finally, me and Corey will average out our scores and recommendation, giving you guys our overall take on what we think about this cigar.
Boom. Nailed it. All right. So I said this cigar has been popular in the industry, highly rated cigar for years running. It came out to us in 2012. Boasts an Ecuadorian Sumatra wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan filler. We smoked in this in the what is considered a Robusto, which is not the most popular Vitola. I want to do something different. The Robusto 5x52, so very traditional Robusto size, and comes at a moderately, I would say it's a pretty moderate price given the industry at $9.75. So one thing that I want to pay some attention to is that there is a Vitola of the cigar, which is, I guess, considered like the magic Vitola, right? Which I can't, is it a Figurado? No, it's not. What is it?
Presidente?
No, it's a weird squirrely shape. Oh, I forget what it is. I forget what it's called. It's going to drive me nuts. But it's like so it's like the most popular Vitola for the Oliva V Melanio, right? And again, I want to do something different. So we tried the Robusto. And part of me, because I had already smoked the other one not that long ago at the Cigar Lounge, it was kind of like the challenge to me in saying, okay, how much does the Vitola change the blend itself? And that's really something that I wanted to focus on in this particular review. So I will let everybody know what my findings are when we summarize the cigar. But before we get to the summary, we got to get into the actual breakdown. Chris, what do you think about the construction of this cigar?
Honestly, a flawless box press cigar. Milk chocolate wrapper, light thin veins running through it. Slightly gritty, but at the same time, almost like it was velvety. You know, I like when you get sometimes a furry cigar. I know that sounds strange, but naturally those leaves are slightly furry.
Chris, I don't know if you know this, but I'm really into the fur stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So like you, I like a furry cigar.
Yeah, it had an interesting texture to it. It was very cool. And the cap structure was flawless. You know, the thing is like box press can be challenging construction wise. But overall, like the Oliva V Melanio is a good looking cigar, man. Well constructed. And honestly, slightly in places kind of rigid, but still has that traditional squishy feel around the midsections on a box press because the rigidity is challenged because it is box pressed, but great cigar in construction.
Nice. I agree with you. It's that I like that rich brown color of the cigar itself. And it's weird because if you look at the way the veins kind of spike throughout the cigar, there's a lighter it's essentially like at least the one that I had, I'm not sure about yours, but I think it was probably very similar, is that where the vein structures are running through the wrapper of the cigar ends up being lighter in hue. So it's like it goes from that rich, deep brown to more of like a soft brown. So there's like a bit of marbling in the cigar itself, which I thought it's a cool aesthetic to a cigar. I always like when cigars kind of marble a little bit. They contrast. So I think even just from sticking out on shelves is probably a good thing. So I like the appearance of the cigar overall. I thought it was surprisingly dense. Box presses to me sometimes are usually airy and a little bit lighter. This was a very heavy, dense cigar, at least the one that I smoked. Thought the construction overall was pretty damn flawless. So hats off to the Oliva V in terms of quality and construction. Chris, what do you think about the burn?
I think all the women in the background have stopped breathing. Look at them. They're all fighting for air.
Especially that one on the left. What is she doing?
They're all huffing. I'm sorry, ladies. There's only so much oxygen in this room. We'll wrap it up quickly. Basically, I thought the burn was relatively good. It had a pretty good draw, a decent amount of resistance that was not overly challenging, which you want from a box press anyway. They tend to be on the airy side. The draw was pretty good. The smoke production was decent, but I had the weirdest, wonkiest, waviest burn, and I'm not sure why. It was just constant giant waves in the wrapper. And that's the only way I can describe it. Not like little inconsistencies where it's like, oh, I'm taking off points because, this little part is a millimeter above the next part over, in close proximity. No, it was just like big wonky waves of burn. And at one time I did have to touch it up. Now I'll say this. I did not deduct points, but I found it extremely strange having big wavy burn lines as I'm smoking through it. And I don't know if that's indicative of just it was an Ecuadorian Sumatran wrapper.
Right.
I don't know if it's indicative of that. I don't know if the leaf has variance in width. But it was just a weird burn and just kind of watching it gradually just go like, it's pretty decent.
Do you remember? So when we did the breakdown of the Plasencia, the new one, the hexagonal natural, right? So we always talk about like the hexagon shape and of course the corners, and mine did the same thing. So at each corner where you would say the structure is hard and intact, right? When a joint comes together, where those joints weren't and where the surface was flat, it was starting to burn like this. So you have these like little pits and it was doing that on all sides. So I'm wondering if that maybe was part of it, just in this just in the box press process, which I've never really run into before in a box press. I'm not suggesting that's what it is, but maybe because you're getting those big swoops of, those burn lines, maybe that's what it is. It's just because of the rigidity next to, the two corners or where they're jointed together is a much more solid structure than where it is in the flat part.
That's very possible.
Could be it.
Now, like I said, I didn't take away points, but I just found it very peculiar that I was getting these crazy, consistently wavy burn lines.
Yeah, that is kind of strange. For me, the draw was a little tight on the cigar, which I anticipated given its density. I was thinking as I was kind of holding the cigar, I'm like, there's a lot of tobacco in here. So there may be a little bit of an issue with the draw, and it was a little bit, it was tight enough to where it was bothering me, but was able to kind of loosen it up over time, which is always a good thing. Cigars that stay really tightly rolled, that just, there is no way to get them back to a good burn or something that I would say is adequate in terms of just smoking the rest of the cigar. I'm challenged by those, but cigars that kind of loosen up over time, you get the heat penetration through there and everything kind of just meshes and gels together. It ended up being a pretty good experience overall. Just a ton of tobacco in it. But overall burn consistency for me, unlike you, was pretty even, straight, flawless all the way down, even given its box press shape. Let's get into the flavor characteristics of the cigar. Chris, what did you think about the flavor of all? And this is where this cigar really gets high marks, right? This is where it has shined, of course, all the way back dated to 2012. This cigar is almost 10 years old now. So what did you think?
Sweet, bitter, with a touch of spice up front. It was a great start to the cigar. It kind of covered the basis of, or the full spectrum of kind of what you want in a cigar. I don't know about you, but I'm a big fan of sweet and spicy. Sweet
Yeah.
and spicy is just nice and complimentary. And I kind of got that from like the initial puff, especially from a cold draw, right? Cold draw being not a cold draw, but when the cigar is not running hot yet, like you get a lot of pronounced flavors when it's not burning harshly. And it was like, yeah, that's great. And then the spice starts to wane and it kind of comes back gradually in places, but you get a nice, good amount of woodiness and kind of nuttiness from it that was very evident on a retrohale, which I would say the cigar is retrohale worthy if you've got the nose for it, because the spice can kind of mess you up a little bit, but really pleasant cigar to retrohale, and it was like a constant slow like wake of just spice and sweetiness and woodiness, and it just these slow, real gradual changes. And for most of the part, for most of it, I feel like the flavors were quite consistency, but there was always moments where it just kind of like some of those flavors were more pronounced than others. But there was so much woodiness too that came at through it, that I thought it was really enjoyable. I gotta say, for being an Oliva, some of the ones in the industry are probably not the best, right? But this one is solid, man. It's got some good flavors, and I thought it was quite enjoyable, and I can see why it is a cigar that people constantly come back to. So I really liked it.
Nice. Yeah, I think it has that. It certainly has that upfront spiciness to it. And I don't say spicy in terms of like, I know oftentimes interchange in terms like people interchange that with pepper, and I don't mean pepper. It's not peppery. It's got that baking spice almost component to it, like an herbal spice, more than it does something that really kind of like I would say twitches and tingles in the back of your mouth, which I would say is like just that traditional pepper. It is very nutty. It is, I would say, high components of sweetness in the cigar, which offers a really nice balance. I love cigars that end up being savory, and this is one of those, right? It's equal parts balance of here's these really bold, I would say, in your face flavors. Like it is very woody. It has that spice component, and it's kind of balanced out by things that are a little bit more subtle, being like the sweetness and the nuttiness. It's kind of got a roasted flavor to it. There's no flavors in here that I think are like magical, where I just go, holy shit. But I think the way they're balanced out in this cigar is probably where I would say this cigar shines. So what it does have in terms of characteristics, they all mesh and blend well together that it gives you an amazing experience throughout the entirety of the cigar. Nothing seems disjointed at all. It seems like it's very calculated, which is why I think I enjoyed this cigar as much as I did. And it's weird because up until probably the last 6 months, I had not smoked an Oliva probably for about 5 years. And it's not because I don't like them or hadn't liked them. There's so much other shit to smoke. It was like, I just never, when I just went to the humidor, I just kind of like, okay, browse over the Oliva. Like the Oliva is a staple in every single humidor. It would be very tough for you to walk into a well-established B&M and not see all the Oliva lineup. They're all over the place. So I just had been skipping over them for such a long time. And then I had one about 6 months ago and I was like, fuck. And it was the Figurado that I had. And I was like, holy shit, man, this thing, I'm like reliving 5 years ago when I first had this. And a lot changes in terms of like your responsiveness to certain flavors and your palate, just expanding over time and understanding like subtle nuances of different flavors of cigars. I think you can appreciate more what they bring to the table 5 years later after smoking a bunch of stuff. And that's what happened to me. And I was like, holy shit, I want to keep smoking this cigar. I really, really enjoy it. So for me, I thought the flavor combinations were, they were amazing, very well balanced, the complexity of the cigar. And again, how everything just seemed to come together, like flavors supporting one another almost, was was amazing. Balance of this cigar by far is where it shines. Now here's the dealio. Comes in at $9.75 for the Robusto 5x52. Chris, what did you think in terms of the price? Worth it? Not worth it? Is it appropriate? Is it overpriced? Is it underpriced?
I think it's appropriate. I think it's an appropriate price. I think for a Robusto, anything in a $7 to $10 range, I can stomach.
Yeah.
10 obviously being always that questionable factor of how good was it though. But it was a really good cigar, so it's, you know, it's one of those things where, yeah, I don't mind the price at all.
I agree with you. I think it's appropriate. You know, $9.75, and I could argue you could get these cheaper in other places, but just as a retail MSRP, that's what it's marked as. I think is an appropriate price for the cigar. I think again, in terms of the flavors overall, I think it's definitely warranted. So let's summarize the cigar as a whole, and I'll begin with this. I look at Oliva as a brand that it's weird. Nobody talks about them that much, even though they get high accolades and some of the biggest publications in the world have won Cigar of the Year, Cigar Aficionado multiple years. It's one of those brands that like wins a lot of stuff, but not many people talk about. And I find that to be kind of shocking and strange. You know, how much is this a staple in someone's humidor? How often is it kind of interlaced into the rotation? You see the stuff in B&Ms, but it's just like, you never hear anything about them. And I guess Oliva really hasn't come out with anything new, right? They're kind of like an Ashton, where it's just like, we're going to keep producing the things that we produce that we know, and maybe not battle on the FDA stuff. I don't know. But I would say this, you know, the Oliva V Melanio, no matter the Vitola that you get it in, I would argue is the best in the Oliva lineup. Like, I've had the Oliva G and I think it's a little soft. I think it's too subtle. I've had some other Oliva cigars that I'm just like, But when you go back to the V and you go back to the V Melanio specifically, I think this is the one that's like the staple cigar. This is the one that 10 years later, you can still get behind and you can still smoke and you can still look at it and recognize it as like, hey, this cigar is absolutely incredible. And I do feel that the flavor characteristics, and I said earlier, I wanted to talk about the Vitola itself in comparison to the Figurado. I think the Vitola, in my eyes, from my perspective, doesn't change the balance of flavors all that much. Although I like a Figurado, I like the Vitola. I would argue that if you smoke this in a Robusto, not a whole lot's going to change other than maybe the time around the cigar smoking experience, right? Figurado is a little bigger. It's probably going to smoke a little bit longer. And that's about it. So I really like the idea that it's like, I could pick up the Robusto or I could pick up the Figurado, and I could probably pick up another Vitola and just be pleased with all of them, right? All the experiences from a flavor perspective are probably not going to differ all that much. Overall, though, I think this is a great cigar for a good price. And again, accessibility of this cigar, they're everywhere. You can't not find them. If you walk into a B&M, they're going to be on the shelf.
Yeah. I would agree, Corey. I would agree. Words. I think you put it just right.
Chris, I say things that I say, so you don't have to say anything else.
That's true. Maybe Oliva's a guilty pleasure in the industry, though. Like, it's known as a good cigar, but putting one in your mouth and posting a photo of it, maybe is a little bit taboo.
Yeah.
Maybe
people can't be seen with this.
Maybe
they're just sitting in the corner like. Yeah, I don't know if it's much of that either. I don't know what it is. I can't really put my finger on it, but either way, there's no denying this is a great cigar. So I think it's fantastic. Let's get into the actual scores of the cigar. Both of us agreed that the price was appropriate. So Chris, let's go just do a quick breakdown of construction, burn, and flavor and those scores, and then we'll get to a final score at the end.
Construction, 10 out of 10. Burn, 20 out of 20. Flavors, 25 out of 30 with no scoring bonus or deduction. Mine comes in at a 91.7, which is highly recommended.
Wowzers. I will save this. I scored a 10 out of 10 on construction. Absolutely flawless. Love the way that the cigar looks. I scored it a 19 and a half out of 20 just because of that tight burn at the beginning was super annoying. I gave it a 25 and a half out of 30 for flavors. That also gives me a score of a 91.7, which we will round up to a 92. Definitely healthy for this cigar. I thought it was fantastic. And this is one that I think I want to keep in my rotation a little bit more often. Like if I want to go back to like, okay, let's smoke a big brand today. Let's go back to the big brands, which I don't smoke a lot of. I'm going to smoke this one more than I'm going to smoke of others. That's for sure. Like a lot of people are going to gravitate towards a Fuente. I'm going to gravitate towards the Oliva. So that's just that's kind of my, if I'm going to choose big brands, this is one that like in my head now I'm going, yeah, I want to smoke this more often. So there you go. 92 for the Oliva V Melanio Robusto 5x52. Highly recommend.
Hell yeah.
Score. All right, let's wrap this up. We're over an hour. Damn, a lot of time. I know. And I'm tired, dude. I have not slept literally at all. Like I slept a couple hours the other night because you just go to bed late, wake up early. Last night, I was super tired. I fell asleep on the couch, which I never do. And then my little nap just gave me a second wind. And then I watched this movie about this football player that is like not athletic enough to be a football player. It's a real story. It's really sad. Not athletic enough, but he just fucking grinds and grinds.
Rudy.
No, that's not even a real story. This is actually a true story.
That's a real story.
No, it's not. Look it up. It's not. Like yes, Rudy's a real story, but look up
a real person, I should say.
Is a real person, but look up like, you know how the movie depicts him as like doing that, like, you know, the play at the end. Never happened. Never happened. They didn't carry him off the field. None of that ever happened. It's fucking fake. Drives me nuts. It's fake bullshit. Anyway, so this story is like about this real fucking dude named, was it Buttersworth? No, Bullsworth. I forget the guy's name. Anyway, football player in high school, good for high school, not big enough. He's an offensive lineman, not big enough to play in college. Wants to go to the University of Arkansas Razorbacks, and wants to play offensive line there. He meets with the offensive line coach while he's in high school. And he's like, you're not big enough. You're, 6'2", 245 pounds. There's no way you can do this. Like, I'm just telling you, you don't have the athleticism. And then he asked the coach, he goes, where do you need to be? And he goes, you need to be like over 300 pounds. So like in the off season, like going into college, he gains the weight and gets up to like 330 pounds. This is like a true fucking story. This is a movie.
Damn.
And then the coach goes, but then he loses his mobility because now he's carrying all this weight. And the coach was like, all right, I'm going to give you a shot. You're going to be like red shirted. You like practice squad. Essentially you can hold pads. And he just kept grinding. And the coach was finally like, you're fat. Like, you're carrying the wrong weight. So I need you to lose a bunch of weight. And then we got to rebuild it into muscle, which is what they do. And then he just grinding it out. First player in, last player to leave every single day, like best attitude on earth. Like, and by the way, like fucking smart as shit, was like getting his master's degree, like in his 4th year of college, like super fucking genius smart, not genius smart, but like super smart. Right. And just fucking great work ethic. And so he's playing for the Razorbacks, and his senior year, they get a new coach, and the coach said, like, it's going to be rebuilding year. And he says, don't rebuild. We have the squad. Like, we have the talent to like make a really fucking good team. And they start like beating the shit out of everybody senior. Again, true story. And I think he's like selected as like an All-American, which was like people kept telling, it's like, no way you could ever do that. You just don't have the athleticism. Ended up being like one of the best offensive linemen in Razorback history, and gets drafted to the NFL, which is crazy. Gets drafted to the Indianapolis Colts, gets selected to start his rookie year at the Indianapolis Colts. And then he gets hit by a semi truck and dies. True story. Super sad. Literally watched the whole thing. It was like 2 a.m. because it's like a 2.5 hour movie. Started it at like midnight. That's why I'm so sleepy. And literally he dies at the end, and I'm like tearing up, like just laying in bed. Like, this is how this ends? God damn it. It's really super sad, but what a good movie. Really, really, really good. It's on Netflix right now. I was like, holy shit, this story is incredible. So incredible. Really, really fantastic movie. Anyway, I don't know why I told anybody this. It doesn't really make a difference. Anyway, let's wrap this up. Hey, you can visit our show sponsor, My Cigar Pack. Visit them at www.mycigarpack.com. The June packs are on their way. Chris, guess what? I just saw we got the shipping notification for the June packs. So they're on their way to us. Last month's pack was filled with a bunch of Espinosa stuff. Well, it was the Espinosa Factory Direct. There were some Espinosa staple cigars that were in there as well, as like the La Ranja Oscuro. Were in just the regular packs and not part of the Factory Direct process, obviously. But really excited for the June packs. I love opening them up because I feel like I'm always surprised with some goodies. What's great is, and I'm saying this legitimately, this is not scripted, obviously. I love opening up the packs and seeing staple cigars and then seeing stuff that I've never smoked before. It's like a cool combination of like, oh, I haven't had this one in a while, but I've smoked it plenty. Cool, nice to be back in the rotation. And then new stuff where I'm like, oh, I haven't had that before. I want to try that.
Yeah.
So it's really a healthy balance of like some old school goodies versus some new shit that you probably never heard of.
Yeah.
And then make sure you check out the Factory Direct program. I would argue some of the best cigars you'll ever have for the money. Chris probably said it best weeks and weeks back, and I'm going to keep reiterating this. It's an opportunity for some of these guys and factories to experiment doing different stuff. And they're doing so. If you look at it, from a price point, it's about $4.25 a cigar, right? And part of it is like, hey, they're reducing the packaging. These come in, very basic, like paper packaging and all that stuff, because it's about the cigar. It's not about the box, not about the other stuff. It's not about the artwork. It's about the cigar itself. And they really get to work on and experiment with certain things as a part of this program. So check out the Factory Direct program as well. You can also check out our website, www.hotticketweekly.com. This last week, because we didn't have a podcast episode before, Chris and I put out 5 cigar reviews in 1 week. We literally hit one every single day during the week last week. So you can check those out. So I'll post everything on social media. So if you follow us on Instagram, you can just swipe up to see those reviews, because there's a flurry of them in that week. I mean, we just really went hard in the paint on getting reviews out. So you can check those out. Again, www.hotticketweekly.com. And of course, you can subscribe to us, not scribe. Scribing is like drawing shit. What is scribing? Is that like etching?
Scribing, I think, is just writing in general.
Just calligraphy, really?
Yeah.
Okay. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. So all these episodes with these cool, fun pup play and or church choir backgrounds will be there for your viewing pleasure. So I think that's it. Let's wrap it up.
Let's thank our crowds for participating. Thank you, everyone. You did great.
Yep.
You especially, and you. I'm so proud of these people. I'm so proud of these ladies and everything they've accomplished in this episode. They've held their breaths.
Yeah.
For an hour and 20 minutes.
Got great. Yeah. I mean, all of my dogs in the background, where my dog's at. Yeah, did a great job. You know what? For dogs your dogs are very energetic and they get very amped up. They're very vocal. They remained calm and quiet to allow me to play out the rest of this episode. So I appreciate, but now we got to get some backyard time. So me and the crew are going to head out back, sniff each other's asses for a little bit, probably pee on one another, and just make a day of it.
Sounds great.
All right. That will conclude, holy shit, episode 199. Episode 200 is going to be a fun one, so stay tuned for that. It's a milestone episode for us, obviously. But this will conclude the episode before the milestone episode. And we will be back at you next week with episode 200. See you, everyone.